OnePlus has just launched its fresh new 2018 flagship handset, the OnePlus 6. I'm going to do a quick side-by-side with the older OnePlus 5, over a year old now, just to see if OnePlus 5 owners should consider jumping up to the latest handset. So first of all, stick them side by side. They're more or less the same dimensions, but the OnePlus 6 does of course sport a much larger screen, 6.28 inches, compared with the old 5.5 inch OnePlus 5. The reason for the similar dimensions is the fact that the OnePlus 6's display almost fills the entire front panel thanks to those really skinny bezels, especially up top where you've got a little bit of notch action to really help it push up to the very limits. Both handsets are definitely a handful, so it's just as well you've got a bit of one-handed help to drag down that notifications bar, because you stand no chance of reaching up to the very top of the screen otherwise. Flip them around, and of course the older OnePlus 5 rocks the aluminium frame, which is still pretty pristine despite the fact that it's quite an older handset now and it's been bashed around to buggery. As you can see there, no scratches or scuffs, so it's nice and solid. We're hoping for the same result from the OnePlus 6. It sports a all glass frame now, but it is Gorilla Glass 5, so hopefully should prove nice and tough and rugged. It does of course scuff up a little bit with that glossy finish, but you can buy it in a matte finish with that same glass material if you so desire, and it's also available in silk white in a limited edition. As you can see, of course, the older OnePlus 5 sports a fingerprint sensor hidden beneath the display, whereas it's moved to the back of the handset here for the OnePlus 6. We actually prefer the rear mounted effort because it just falls naturally under your finger when you pick it up, and it is super nippy. As you can see there, you're straight into your desktops with just a quick tap. However, in the case of the OnePlus 5, it is once again pleasingly responsive, just a quick tap and you're straight into your desktops, and just have to slightly stretch your thumb down, but again it's no great hardship. However, the OnePlus 6 definitely wins when it comes to alternative security solutions because it also supports full facial recognition. Once you've scanned your face with that front-facing camera, all you need to do is just hit the power button and it should recognise your face instantly, bypassing that lock screen. So it's a great alternative when, for instance, you're wearing gloves, you generally can't access that fingerprint sensor. Great stuff. It's also worth pointing out that down below you still get the same setup, so you still get a 3.5mm headphone jack alongside that Type-C USB. However, the alert slider, which was previously housed over on the left hand side here on the OnePlus 5, has now switched over to the right hand side for the OnePlus 6, and that's good for right-handed users because it's just easier to access, and it operates exactly as before. You've got your do not disturb mode on quick standby basically, which is great news if you're diving into a meeting. It's also worth pointing out that the OnePlus 6 is still not water resistant, just like the OnePlus 5. It doesn't have an official IP rating. The OnePlus does reassure us that it has made some efforts to try and prevent water from infiltrating the various ports. So it rings if you drop it in a puddle or just take it out in a downpour, it should be absolutely fine. So that screen has of course increased in size to 6.28 inches over the old 5.5, but it's still an AMOLED display and it's still absolutely stunning. Of course, you do now get that stretched 19:9 aspect ratio as well, whereas the OnePlus 5 rocks a more standard 16:9. That said, they're both nice and crisp. You get a full HD resolution here on the OnePlus 5. It's full HD plus here on the OnePlus 6, so very similar in terms of pixels per inch. The OnePlus 5 I think is actually technically a little bit sharper, but as you see, if you put them side by side, you will not notice any individual pixels, and images are nice and crisp whether you're browsing your photo gallery, checking out some videos, whatever you fancy doing. And you do still get plenty of customization as well. If you dive into the display section and then go to screen calibration, of course you've got your choice of various options. You've got your default, sRGB, all the rest. Exactly the same here on the OnePlus 6. You can choose to have it set up exactly how you like it. And of course you do get your night mode in both cases, which just basically filters the blue light, produces nice warm colours, which is easier on the eye when you're browsing a bit of Facebook at 2 AM. And you get your reader mode, which basically gives you a monochrome effect, kind of similar to a Kindle. And it's also worth pointing out that of course you have that on-screen navigation dock here on the OnePlus 6, whereas the back and the recent apps buttons are actually built into the bottom bezel here on the OnePlus 5. You can actually get rid of that navigation dock, however, and just use its swipe gestures instead if that's your bag. OnePlus has done a really good job of keeping this phone up to date, so it's on the latest version of Android Oreo, of course, 8.1, and you get the latest version of Oxygen OS as well, 5.1.1. It's actually 5.1.2 here on this bad boy, the OnePlus 6, but that only adds a couple of bonus little features, such as the ability to hide that notch up top if you so desire. So if you're not a fan of the notch effect, don't worry, you can get rid of it. All you need to do is dive into the display section and then go to Notch Display and press hide, and it just adds a black bar effect across there to mask it from view. In terms of general software experience though, it's basically the same thing. You still get your shelf there, you've still got full customization when you need to, so you can change up the likes of the icon pack, stuff like that, the general layout of your home screens, and plenty of other customization. Both of these phones also come, of course, with the gaming mode, which just adds the do not disturb functionality, gives a little network boost to your games, things like that. Power in the show, however, the general performance, there is a significant difference. You get the older Snapdragon 835 backed by the 6 or 8 gigs of RAM packed into the OnePlus 5, whereas there's the fresh new Snapdragon 845 here on the OnePlus 6. In both cases, of course, it's still a nippy experience, but it's just silky smooth here on the OnePlus 6. You can notice a bit of a difference in your everyday usage, but either phone will happily play the latest games no problem. And of course, if you do like your bit of benchmarking, then yes, surprise, surprise, the OnePlus 6 is stronger in that respect. What about the battery tech? Well, it's a 3300 mAh cell in both cases, so no real difference there. And of course you get your usual battery saver modes and everything as well for when you're already running low, you've got your final dregs of juice and you just want to get the most out of it. You can also do battery optimization, just checks which apps are sucking away your juice in the background and helps you to stop that from happening. And of course, it wouldn't be a OnePlus phone without a bit of dash charge support to power you back up in no time whatsoever. What about the storage space? Well, again, no difference whatsoever. You get either 64 or 128 gigs, or you can pick it up in 256 if you look really hard as well. And of course, it's not expandable via micro SD in either case, so definitely get as much as you need. And so onto that camera tech, and of course if you flip them over you'll see they both rock a dual lens sensor. Against the OnePlus 5, it's a 16 megapixel f1.7 lens backed by a f2.6 20 megapixel, and the specs are very, very similar for the OnePlus 6. Again, it's a 16 and 20 megapixel arrangement with the f1.7 aperture for that primary lens. However, the OnePlus 6 now boasts a bit of OIS action as well, optical image stabilization, to really help out with those low light shots. If we actually dive into the camera app, you'll see that not much has changed there. You've got fast access to your auto photo modes and fast access again to the portrait mode, so just a quick tap there and you'll be straight into that, and that just uses the dual lens setup to focus on your subjects and blur out the background and really help them to stand out and look super sexy. You also, of course, have fast access to the video mode. In both cases, you can shoot 4K footage, but that has been boosted to a 4K 60 frames per second here on the OnePlus 6, as well as the standard 30 frames per second as well. And as usual, just a quick swipe up, and you are straight into your bonus camera modes as well. So once again, you've got full pro controls. You can shoot raw images and tweak all the likes of the ISO balance, the shutter speed, all that kind of stuff when needed. And as well as standard video, you can also shoot time-lapse and slow motion footage too. So very little difference in terms of the general setup. That said, the slow motion has been tweaked slightly, so before you could only shoot it, as you can see here, in 720p. Whereas now, you've got a choice of either 720p at 480 frames per second or 1080p at 240 frames per second. And as for around front, you once again have a 16 megapixel front-facing camera in either case. So that in a nutshell is the OnePlus 6 versus the OnePlus 5. If you are a OnePlus 5 owner, let us know in the comments below, would you upgrade to the OnePlus 6? You do get a specs boost, of course, and that gorgeous new design, which adds in the benefit of the more spacious screen. But of course, it's not exactly super cheap anymore, so it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts in the comments below. For more on the OnePlus 6, please hit that subscribe button and ding the notifications bell, and we'll be bringing you lots more coverage of this bad boy, as well as the latest and greatest Androids out there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.